Hello everybody, my name is Keith Glock and welcome to the Montgomery High School Guidance junior class presentation regarding college search process. Where in the heck do we begin to go forward here? I'm going to bounce back and forth a little bit between this PowerPoint as well as my shining face. So happy to get started for you here. Thing to remember about all this is one size absolutely does not fit all. We're constantly talking about fits, and it's really not a cliche at all. We really mean it. I feel like we get hung up a lot of times on, what name school am I going to? The college is this prize to be won, but it really is not a prize to be won. It really is about the correct fit. So let's talk about the process. And for all you juniors watching this, I'm going to encourage all of you to, after this is over, we know you're going to have questions. You're going to need to meet with your counselor, and we want to do that one-on-one. A lot of it, obviously, we know is related to the pandemic. I wish that I knew some of you better at this point, and quite frankly, I think we're at a little bit of a disadvantage. So please, make an appointment with us. You can stop down to guidance to see if we're free. You can shoot us an email, however you're comfortable in making an appointment with us, because we're going to ask some big picture questions today, and then when we meet with you individually, we're going to seek to answer those questions and then hopefully provide a lot more clarity for you as you move into your actual search process. So getting started, this is winter of your junior year, and right now we're going to ask those big picture questions, which we'll get to what those are in a minute. And how do you then go and take some of this information after we answer those specific questions about you and your search? How do you whittle down what you think you might be interested in doing versus what maybe is out there? First thing we want you to do is we want you to talk to older friends and family. That stuff is great, but make sure that you don't just take people's word because they said so. Well, so-and-so goes to this college and they say it stinks. Well, the reason why they might say that it stinks is the actual reason why you might really like it, because no two people are the same. So make sure that you're asking that questions. Understanding what resources are out there, please start with us. Not passing you off to anybody at all, but the internet is a great source of information. It's not the be-all, end-all source, but you can, piece together bits and pieces, then maybe come down and say, hey, I was reading this, what do you think about this? And then we can put all that information together, and hopefully that synthesizes for you something that will, put together at least a greater picture of what you might have in your mind now. As we continue to move forward here, let's just do some vocabulary clear up, because I think that this often gets lost in translation. When you hear the term liberal arts school, it's oftentimes followed by the word, or preceded, I should say, by the word small liberal arts college. Well, here's some news for everybody out there. There are small liberal arts colleges, but there's also big liberal arts colleges. Penn State, Rutgers, Ohio State. Some of the biggest institutions in America are liberal arts college. Liberal arts college does not need to be small. It just means that you can study math, you could study engineering, you could study English, you can study a wide variety of topics, and those would all be included. Private colleges versus public colleges, that's going to be more relevant in the state of New Jersey versus other places around the country, because it's relevant to pricing. So Rutgers, the College of New Jersey, Ramapo, Rowan, Stockton, are all public colleges in New Jersey, and basically everywhere else is private. Private schools tend to cost more as a sticker price, and they tend to come down a little bit after the admission because they can offer you maybe a little bit more aid. In public schools, you tend to just kind of get what you get because the price is fixed. Schools that are not liberal arts colleges are more like a culinary institute, a technical school, a school of arts, performing arts, where you're not necessarily just going to go and you take biology there. You're really going to go for some kind of performance or a music conservatory. Outside of that, the very vast majority of schools in the country are liberal arts colleges. So as we continue to kind of scroll through our vocabulary, the common application is becoming more and more common, which is ironic enough. That it is one singular place where you will fill out all of your identification information one time, your name, your address, your birthday, all that other goodness. And you'll be able to apply to many schools using that one application website. It makes it quite convenient. There are some other schools throughout the country who will require you to use their own specific application through their own website, and that's fine too. It's just important that you know that that exists. Early decision versus early action. Around Montgomery, we tend to be in a hurry when we do everything. So it's this early action versus early decision vocabulary distinction is very, very important. Still, a majority of people in the country apply to college in January of their senior year. That is the regular decision deadline. Around Montgomery, it feels here, because we are so in a rush to do things a lot of the time, that feels late. It's not late. The early period for early action and early decision, applications are due November 1st, November 15th, December 1st, something like that. There are a few schools that are October 15th, like Georgia Tech, but those schools are few and far between. So what exactly is the difference between early action and early decision? Because those deadlines often are very close to each other. Early action means that you can apply to as many schools as you want. And if you get in, you are not obligated to attend under any circumstances. You can get in, you wait until April, and you can make your decision. Early decision is exactly that. It is a final decision. You are applying to the school under that early decision designation. You as a student sign a piece of paper that says, if I get in, I'm coming. As a counselor, I sign a piece of paper that says, if you get in, you're going. And your parents sign a piece of paper that says, if my child gets in, they're coming. Now, if you apply early decision and get in and then decide that you do not want to go, this is not a very easy thing to get out of. The only way you can get out of an early decision agreement is for financial reasons. However, it's not just you telling the college, well, I can't afford it, sorry, I've decided to go somewhere else. They are going to look at your financial information for you and say, okay, no, that's not how this works. You can sell your second home or your boat or your third car and use that to pay for college, because they will take a look at your assets. So be aware that it is a binding thing. And we're going to talk a lot more about early decision in just a minute. There's other admissions deadline vocabulary for you to understand. Restrictive early action, it's just another way for the colleges to kind of control who is applying. It means that you can apply there. It is not binding like early decision. You're not obligated to attend, but it limits your ability to apply to certain other schools. That's certainly very much beneficial to the school and very much less beneficial to you as a student. Rolling admission just means that there is not a firm application deadline. As the school receives applications, they read them and give a decision, as opposed to a firm deadline like early action or early decision, where if the deadline is November 1st, all the applications sit in a pile until November 1st, and then the school will start reading them and sending out decisions. Priority admission is just another way to try to get you to apply by a certain deadline. There is no binding nature to it. So here is where we're going to get into some interesting conversations surrounding early decision, because it's such a hot button topic, especially around Montgomery. Is there an advantage to applying to a school early decision? There is a lot of information out there on specifically school websites. You're going to be told a lot by college admissions counselors. You should absolutely apply early decision. That's what they're going to tell you. Okay, so as we flip back over here to the PowerPoint, there's an admissions advantage to applying early decision compared to another admissions deadline. That's what you're going to hear, as I just said. And you all and the college admissions counselors look at the admission rate in early decision versus every other deadline. And the admissions percentage in early decision is always higher. Why is that? We have to be smart consumers of college. You simply cannot accept and just go, well, yeah, okay, that definitely benefits me. I should apply. You need to think second and third level here. You're going to hear that on a college tour. And as a very smart consumer of college, you are going to raise your hand in one of these meetings, and you are going to say to that college admissions counselor, so what I hear you saying is, it is easier to get into your school in the early decision period because you are lowering the admissions criteria. Now, they hate this question, obviously, because the answer to this question is clearly no. It's not like students who are less qualified are getting in that early decision period. It's just that they are letting more 100% admit students. So you need to ask yourself which population is applying to the school in that early decision period, which is making it easier to get in, quote unquote easier, raising the admission rate that high. And the answer to this question is, who are the 100% admit students? Your scholarship athletes, your recruited athletes. If there's children of faculty who are guaranteed admission, all of the 100% guaranteed admit students are applying in that early decision period. So naturally, if there is a greater influx of 100% admit students, the admissions rate is going to be higher in that period. It's not that the academic requirements have softened in that early decision period. Okay? I'm always interested in how college admissions reps answer that question, because by and large, and I'm not saying they should divulge this information to you, it's all of those unknowns that are going to affect how easy or difficult it is to get into a lot of these prestigious colleges and universities in the early decision period. And that stuff is going to change from year to year. For example, school like Princeton, which is right down the block from us, they have the benefit of their prestigiousness. They can accept students worldwide, students nationwide. They are looking to create a culture which is nationally based. So therefore, they're going to look at, well, do we have any students from Wyoming? Do we have any students from Idaho? How many students from New Jersey do we have in this early decision pool? Okay, great. Now let's take a look at our 100% admits. How many recruited athletes are from New Jersey this year compared to maybe say last year? And if the number of recruited athletes this year is higher in the state of New Jersey, then it's probably going to be more difficult to get in any early period, even though Princeton doesn't have early decision. It's going to be more difficult to get in during that deadline than it might otherwise be. So, I use Princeton because it's right down the block, but it rings true of many what we would define as prestigious colleges throughout the country. So please do not get caught up in the weeds of this 1 percentage point here and there. This is going to make it easier. That's going to make it easier. The reality is that there are so many unknowns that the school is never going to tell you, that we are never going to have access to that information, which is largely going to decide when we get in or if we get into a lot of these places. So why are they doing this? Because they want to control yield. Okay, yield is defined as the number of kids who admitted, but actually attend a school when they are in the fall of their freshman year of college. Why is that important to them? Let's just look at a set of numbers so you can understand it. This is 2018 numbers. Lehigh's cost of attendance was just about $50,000. So let's hypothetically say they need 2,000 incoming freshmen, but their yield, the number of students that they actually get to attend, is only 1,900. So that means 100 students times that $50,000 and change equals a $5 million deficit for the college. So it's a $5 million budgetary shortage. They definitely do not want that. If they get 100 more students than they wanted, how are they going to house them if they all stay on campus? Now they're going to have to reach out and see, well, is there a local hotel we can rent out a couple of floors from? They don't want that situation either. So they are looking to hit yield exactly on the head. And the way that they do that is by trying to entice as many students as they can into the early decision pool. And the reason for that is because they want to also maintain whatever academic level to which they are going to try to aspire. So if they can get a whole mess of really qualified candidates in that early decision pool and accept all of those students, now all of a sudden they're much closer to achieving their yield and maintaining the academic prestige that they want to. Okay. So now we're going to go back to things that are a little bit more generic and move off of that early decision conversation. I've been at Montgomery 15 years personally, and without question, the two things that affect happiness more than anything else: how big is the school I'm going to, and where is it in relation to my support system? So many of you say, well, I don't really care how big it is. I'm here to tell you that I assure you that you do care how big the school is. You can sit in a classroom of 9 students, of 25 students, maybe like you're used to here, or if you're going to one of the bigger public schools in the country, you can sit in a classroom in your first 2 years, that's more like the MPAC, 250 students. Unless you really, really make an effort, that teacher or that teacher's aide is not really probably going to know your name. You're just going to be an identification number. And if you can get through those first 2 years in a situation like that, largely in your junior and senior year, the class, the sizes come down a little bit as you get a little bit more specific. But you have to get through that. So if you're not a super independent learner, take heed. And maybe the idea of going to a huge school is enticing to you, but maybe it's not really the best thing for you. And then obviously we want to make sure that we're refining our search based on the things that we're interested in. Does the school have the major or a specification within a major of something that I think I'm interested in now? Things like that. So make sure that we're all going to be on the same page there. College visits are very, very important. So between now, which is January of your junior year, and September of your senior year, you're going to have all of this time to set up visits. You're going to start your visit or your research by meeting with us and by going online, and then you're going to set a calendar with your support system at home and say, well, how are we going to go and get and see as many of these schools as we can? And hopefully the answer to that is through some collaboration. And by the time you get back in September, you'll have seen a bunch of places and you've whittled your list, which was probably once pretty big, maybe back down to 7 to 10 schools. We want you to go if you can. Spring break is a great time to go if you have the ability to do it then. School's in session. Going and visiting a campus while school's in session is a very different feel than when it's kind of the summertime, nobody's there, you're walking around, it looks like a ghost town. You don't really get a great feel for the temperature of things going on campus. And also, be aware of the weather when you go and the day of the week when you go. If you take a tour on Sunday morning at 9 o'clock, I don't care what the weather is, the campus is going to be dead because college kids don't wake up. If you go on a Friday afternoon on the first 74-degree day at a school which is otherwise cold in the winter, I assure you that on Friday at 4 o'clock, that campus is going to be absolutely jumping, and you're going to think it's the greatest social scene on planet Earth. Cost. If you were looking on the things that we would consider when applying to school, and that slide was 2 or 3 slides ago, cost was, I believe, the last item on the list. And the reason why is because we're not trying to minimize the effect that cost can have on the selection ultimately. But right now, for all of us, we have no idea what the final cost of college is going to be for anyone. There is a sticker price to college, but students rarely end up paying the sticker price for college. What ends up happening is for private colleges and universities, you apply to a school and if the sticker price is $50,000, very often they will admit you and say, congratulations, you're a very good student. Here's $11,000, $15,000 annually. So what you thought was a sticker price of $50 may really only be $39,000 or $35,000. So, you'd have to navigate that, but we won't know that until after you apply and you're accepted. So it may cost you $70 to apply to a school that you're interested in, and the cost at the end of it may end up pricing you out of attending the school, but we really won't know that until after we apply, we're admitted, and we understand the financial implications. What are the colleges looking for? There still are 3 main things that the colleges are looking for. What classes did you take and what grades did you get? Your grade point average, and now I believe SAT, ACT scores have moved down into 3rd place on this top 3. And really everything else below that is far below those top 3 things. I'll explain a little bit more about standardized testing in a moment, but I want to get into all of the other things that you all do as students. And I want you to understand that they all have value. Are they going to be far and away the thing that absolutely gets you into a school? I don't know necessarily how true that is, except to say that if it's a thing that you are going to do while you're at that school, it's why we talk very often about recruited athletes and things like that, they will be doing that at the school. It is a thing that the school is recruiting them to come and do. So that will affect how easy or difficult it is to get into that school. However, clubs and activities, those are all great things. How do they become relevant for you? They become relevant because you can bring those things, those life lessons, into a college essay, into a section on the application that says, is there anything else about me that you want me to know? And that is really where your heart and soul can shine. So all these other things that we're doing, the activities, the sports, the clubs that we're involved in, are really so important because we need you to bring those to life in other parts of your application. Before I get into testing, I want to say one more thing about taking ownership of this entire process. The reality is that from here on out, parents have, likely been in contact with counselors up to this point, and we're not saying we don't want to hear from parents, but we want to hear from the students. And the reason we want to hear from the students is because colleges, when you're in this application process, will essentially grade you down if mom and dad or parent or guardian is calling on behalf of a student. It's the worst possible thing in the world that as a parent you could do for your child, and that is to make a phone call to a college on their behalf. The college answers the phone and says, if this is a student who can't pick up the phone and ask this question themselves, why am I going to let them into my school? Because I want students who are going to be self-sufficient. I want students that are going to figure out problems for themselves. So please practice on us as counselors, take ownership of the process now, and if there's things that you're messing up on, we're going to be happy to tell you about it. Standardized testing. Okay, you see, I'll tackle the easy parts first, and that is to say that the SAT-2, which is the subject area tests, those no longer exist. SATs, ACTs, and test optional schools. There's a great list of schools on fairtest.org, but here's the reality. SATs and ACTs, most schools in the country, when you all are applying to college in the fall or in the winter of your senior year, are still going to be test optional. There may be some schools who are going to bring back a requirement for SAT and ACT. But the stark reality of standardized testing was that bigger schools nationally were looking for a way to compare students on this scale, and they got used to that. And they said, well, we can't do this admissions process without a standardized testing metric. Now, since pandemic, they've been forced to do it. And I think that opens a lot of eyes to the fact that it can be done. I would not be surprised to see test optional schools stay test optional for a very, very long time. Now, what does that mean for all of you who have already taken the SAT or the ACT or the ACT? The reality is that we need to take a different look about whether we want to submit those scores to a test optional college or not. Why is that? Logically, less students have taken the test over the last 2 years because of the pandemic. More schools have gone test optional, which has only increased that number of students who chose not to take it or chose not to submit it. So who is submitting scores? The top of the top. So what that does is it makes a score which previous to the pandemic would have probably fit a student into the middle 50% of applicants may now put them in the bottom half of SAT or ACT takers. And that could work against you. So that's a personal conversation that we can have as we decide whether or not we want to send that SAT or ACT score to a school. But that's just a very general thing to keep in mind as we are making those kinds of decisions as we move forward. How do you register for the SAT and ACT? Very simply, you go to collegeboard or ACT.org, and those websites also have a lot of useful prep. Khan Academy on the College Board website, which they've partnered up. I was skeptical about that partnership at first, and now I'm very much not skeptical. Khan Academy is a fantastic free way to prep for the SAT. Subject area tests, again, we talked about this, gone. It's a great thing. Test prep and coaching programs, here's what I will say about test prep. Do it, whatever that means for you. If you have the ability to go and take a class or get some one-on-one tutoring because monetarily your family can afford that, that's wonderful. If you can't, that's fine too. Use Khan Academy online. Go on Amazon and get a $4 book and have the discipline to sit down and go through it. That's where all of these courses are getting their information from anyhow. Everything looks fairly standard. It just, doing that for yourself requires a great bit of discipline that oftentimes, adults, let alone students, just don't have. So just do something with which to prep. Your college search should start with Naviance. If you don't know your Naviance login yet, you can simply email your counselor and we will make sure that you have that. You can start with a college search and view your matches. And this slide, I think, is so important. It's scattergrams. What you're looking at here, each of those data points on this scatter plot are students from Montgomery High School only in the last 5 years who have applied to a place. So as you look across the bottom of the screen, you see an SAT score to 1600 and a grade point average on the left, moving up the y-axis. And all those data points, red X's means that student with that particular GPA and SAT score didn't get in. The green check marks means they did get in, and the blue purple dots means that we had either a wait list or unknown. And some of these scattergrams will also give you deferrals. And ultimately, when we put all of it together, what we should come up with is a better picture of which schools are target schools, which schools are reach schools, and which schools are safety schools. One of the other really good things that happens is that we have a ton of colleges who come and visit Montgomery. And visits have been virtual in the last 2 years, and a lot of that is on the college side of things, but it still provides you the ability to log into a Zoom or a Google Meet with a rep from a college, and we provide a list of those within Naviance. And if you just look and see when they are visiting, you can sign up and register right in Naviance, and then Naviance will send you an email when, as a reminder when that's happening. But you do need to sign up. If it is happening in person here at school, you'll need to make sure that you get a pass from a teacher in order to attend. So final thoughts. After you make your appointment with your counselor and you end up meeting with us and we come up with a list of what's hopefully 10 to 12 schools, we want you to get out and see schools that are fits. We want you to do the research on them. And hopefully by the time you get back from summer break, you have trimmed that to about 7, 8, 10 schools. And then when you get back in September, we're going to take you through another presentation, which is really going to be the nuts and bolts of, all right, here's what we need you to do in order to make the application process work. So from here to September, your focus needs to be on where is it that I think I want to go? Let me go and visit a lot of places, see what I think I like, how does that match up with the realities of what it is like, and then we'll hit the actual application when we get back to school in September. So I want to thank you for tuning into this. If you have questions, when you have questions, because we know they're coming, again, please, please, please make an appointment with your counselors. Just stop into guidance and see if we're available. Make an appointment there, shoot us an email, whichever way you're most comfortable, just please do that. We are hungry, we are anxious to better get to know you as the current junior class because of all of the situations that have led to the fact that I am sitting here in the Montgomery Gymnasium by myself putting this presentation together for you all instead of doing this in a face-to-face situation like we really would have wanted to. Best of luck in your college search. We are here to help you, and can't wait to see you back.